Yeah, and welcome to the One Take Livecast. It's me, Jax, and here we are back in now 2023. And with my first guest is Kitty Phoenix, a burlesque dancer, a member of the Cardiff Cabaret Club. All we need to do now is wait for her to join herself in. Let's see if I can invite her one more time, and then we get this conversation started. I hope you all had a good Christmas and New Year's Eve as well. Here we go. Joined. So yeah, Kitty, if you just click the plus button down there. There we go. And accept. Good evening.
Hello, I managed it.
You look lovely. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm all right, thank you. I am a podcast virgin, so it was all a little bit, oh, what do I press? But it's fine. We got that.
It's great. You're not my first podcast virgin, and but thank you for being the first guest on the new year of the show.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, New Year, everything going on now. It's lovely.
Yeah, yeah. First of all, did you have a good Christmas?
Well, we're in the middle of building work, so it was a bit chaotic. Um, Mess absolutely everywhere, and I've just decamped my studio to the living room. So I'm now, this is a corner of the living room with my main sewing machine and things that I really can't live without. And then the rest of the world is happening down that end. So it's a bit strange at the moment.
I like the wallpaper.
That's a curtain. Yeah,
Oh,
that's a curtain.
it fooled me. It fooled me. Oh, it's a really nice curtain. So, my first question is, in a nutshell, what got you into dancing in the first place?
Um, I actually started dancing when I was about 13, I think. We had a new PE teacher that came to school, and I hated PE. They made us do hockey in the rain and all that kind of stuff, and I couldn't
Mm.
stand it. But she got us actually, she put on, which Kate Bush was it? Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. And she was like, do interpretive dance all around the hall to that. And I really enjoyed it. And she said, you've got some potential there. You should go and have dance classes. So I did. I went and I had like modern dance classes for a while, but really I started too late, which is why I could never go into it professionally at that point. And then I spent years regretting that I never actually went into dance. And eventually I found burlesque, which is something that you can do when you're not just 18 and 20. I'm actually in my 40s now, and you can be a burlesque dancer in your 40s.
Yes, you can. I know plenty of people, I'm sure we mutually know, that are in their 40s, even, late 40s or whatever. In fact, I know someone's mum that was doing burlesque, and she's in her 60s or early 70s. But burlesque, one thing, when I discovered about it, there's no age limit, there's no size limit, and there's no, personality limit. You could come from a non-dancing background, dancing background. You could just do this because you just want to do it. And there's such a variety and a quality to it as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I come from Cardiff Cabaret Club, and there we've got people who are male, female, non-binary, straight, gay, polyamorous,
Oh yeah,
everything. There's probably not a single thing that isn't included in
we're all,
the kind of troupe that I come from, which is really good. And it is from 18 up into people in their 60s. Um, and there are people who are stick thin, but there are plenty of people who've got curves aplenty. Um,
I like that.
and, and we love it. Yeah, we love the fact that on stage we don't all look the same. And some people, they do the very classic burlesque, which is just beautiful and very romantic. But some people do the real grindy kind of stuff. Some people do comedy. There's
Or
a big,
characters.
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of satire in burlesque, and it's really nice to see that in some of our shows and to see that really different style that you get. I mean, I know people who've dressed up as like a kebab. She's actually won an award last year. She did really well. But that's Cortina Ford. She dresses up as a kebab in one of her routines and says that she's down on Chippy Alley. And someone I know dresses as a seagull. So there's room for everything.
Yeah, I think I remember when I went to, because first burlesque show I probably went to was about just over 11 years ago. It was the person I was going out with at the time. Kind of, I heard about it, but like I said, I'm not saying it didn't interest me. It was just heard about it while I was doing things, and they take me to a show for a nice date night and everything, and I was kind of taken back by it because I sort of knew what it was, but I forgot the details and how it's done. So I do admit I was like very, the first time, but and I made some friends through that as well. I met some really lovely people who became friends much later. But the one act I distinctly remember in full detail, um, one of the dancers was in this like gorilla King Kong suit, and they had like this prop of the I can't remember if it was the Chrysler Building or the Empire State Building, from the movie and everything. And
Mm.
obviously, going around it, there's like ape noises in the background and planes going in, and then the gorilla the Kong gets shot down and everything, and then goes into a sort of mysterious dance act and starts taking off the gloves and the things, and then they become Fay Ray. They become Fay Ray from the thing, and it was lovely. And then she starts singing "Big Spender" by Shirley Bassey, and it was quite something. And obviously they did the finish, and which is lovely. But it was just that's the very I mean, I see a lot of them, but that's the one that always stands out. That I love that it was both crazy, it was both funny, but also it had the quality and the not mesmerizing sort of performance.
Yeah, yeah, and there can be all sorts of types. And some people are a bit more, I'm taking my clothes off, and that's the main aspect of it. But
Mm,
some people are telling a story, or they're just very beautiful and ephemeral. And
yeah,
it depends on what you want to
empowering.
put into it. Yes, yeah. And empowering is a really good word because as a viewer, I love to go to a burlesque show to see the women, mainly, sometimes men, who are up there and who are loving being up there, taking their clothes off, dancing in front of all these other people. And you get so many women watching women because they're feeding off that freedom and that empowerment that you don't get in a lot of other aspects of society. So that's
Yeah,
one thing I found when I first went to one. I was just like, oh, this is amazing. And I just had to be in burlesque.
yeah, and it's great. It's nice that you find something you can just find either relatable or a whole new world, and you just want to explore it. So it's really nice. You were talking about crazy costumes. You said you've been a seagull, but talk about the prepping, all of that, the making the costume. The idea is I want to be a seagull, and also the materials and everything because I love costumes. And go ahead.
Well, I'll just say, so we don't like misquote anyone, it's Dainty Doreen who's a seagull. I'm not going to take any credit for being a seagull. Just so you know, it's Dainty Doreen.
Sorry.
But I think people come at it from different ideas. Sometimes the concept will come first, and you think, I really want to do something about the apocalypse, and then you get some music, and then you get a costume. Sometimes the music will come. I'll often hear something on the radio because I listen to Planet Rock all the time. So I'll yeah, I'll hear something like a Bon Jovi song, and I'll be like, I could really do a routine to that. And then I have to start thinking, well, what could the costume be that goes with that? And what could be the story of the routine? How am I taking my clothes off? What are the props that go with it? And then quite often you've got to adapt something. So you're starting to think, well, this is the look I want at the beginning. This is the look that I want at the end. But how do I get there without, taking your clothes off like that? What bits do I need to adapt with the costumes so that I can, make the whole thing flow and happen in a purposeful way?
That's absolutely great, and also it's about like I said, layers as well, because you don't want to during performance you've got a bit stuck and you're like quick improvise or thing and everything.
There will always be something that goes wrong. Like I've got a cape in one of my routines, which I've got some elastic around there to hold it in place. And so I take that elastic off first, and then that one's meant to stay in place. And it came off before the point it was meant to. So you're just like, okay, I'm holding it and wafting rather than wafting in the way it's designed. So you do adapt. There's always a costume malfunction and a clip just doesn't work properly or something, but nobody else knows what's meant to have happened at that point. So you just work around it. But it is an interesting part of designing a costume, thinking, what do I need to take off and how do I get out of it? Or how do I interact with a prop? Like sometimes we do chair dancing. When I'm interacting with that chair, what part of my costume is rubbing on the chair? What part am I going to be sitting on? Where do my legs go? I'm thinking through all the logistics. It's not just the pretty costume. There's so many logistics that goes behind it that you really need to think. And all those little secret tips about maybe using press studs to attach the tights onto the pants, or a little extra bit of elastic in something, or a knot somewhere that no one can see. There are lots of little behind the scenes things that you do just to make it all work smoother. And when people say, oh, burlesque, that must be so glamorous, I'm like, there's a lot of tape and safety pins. It's not all glitz and you're not all beautiful the whole time. There's definitely, bits of glue and safety pins in the background. But it's the same with any type of show business, I think.
Well, I can relate. I did used to do theatre in college and did do amateur dramatics, and okay, you look nice, you're in the moment, the audience says, oh, looks very dapper, regal, but at the same time while on stage you're sweating, you got to remember your places, and you got to make sure you're you don't trod on your cloak or anything. I've done pantomime, and when rehearsals, I accidentally trod on my cloak and trip over because I'm in the zone of doing my lines and directing the audience and directing the participants. So, like you said, nothing really goes. It's more on the fly than But in the words of Mercury, the show must go on.
Yes, and as long as you've rehearsed it enough, and you go with that, the show must go on, but also it's not going to show on my face. You can just make it happen. There were various performers that I've worked with, and I've seen their routines a few times, and I've noticed that they're not identical every time I see them, because something is changing. Like, you also feed off the audience, so it might be that there's been a malfunction and something has changed, or the stage kitten hasn't put your prop in the same place as you had it last time. But sometimes the audience is responding in a different way, so you alter things because of that, because you want to go with what they're finding interesting and the passion that they've got for something, rather than, well, I always do it this way, so I'm going to carry on doing it this way. So that's just part of the stagecraft, isn't it?
Yeah, and craft at the end of the day, whether it's stagecraft, the performance craft, you're crafting. You're always crafting, and it's just amazing. And you put the graft in the craft, and if it all goes well, absolutely. Can you talk about one of your most recent performances you did? Well, I would say last year now and everything,
Yeah, no, I haven't performed since last year. Well, one routine that I've got is Nothing Else Matters by Metallica, which is the one where I've got this cape. And I performed it twice in a week. Once was at Clumsy Cabaret, which is in Cardiff, at Tiny Rebel.
Yes.
And once was in Bristol, which was a new place for me. So it was really good to do that 2 times so close together, with a different audience. And again, that slightly different feeling. And I love that routine because Metallica, and in particular that song, is so important to me. It's something that I grew up with.
The
The
Black
Black
Album.
Album, when I was a teenager, it gets you through those dark times, I think. You know,
It
there's so
no,
much that speaks to you. You know, I
it
can't
does.
I can't live my life without Metallica, I think, in my life somewhere. So that was a really important routine to me, and it was just so good. It's also, I'll explain, it's not a very rocky one for me. It's also quite gothic and ephemeral because it's got this cape which is made of chiffon, and Nothing Else Matters is quite a slow song really for Metallica.
Yeah,
So it's very drifty and airy, but black and gothic at the same time. And
yeah, and you could play it at a ball, and people would be dancing to it. It's a very it's a nefarious type of song. Like sometimes you wouldn't. I mean, it's been used in commercials. It's been, by different singers. So I can understand completely. I mean, there's two songs
it's
off that
been
album.
played on the cello by Wednesday Addams. Did you see that?
Oh, I love that show.
I loved that scene because, of course, I could hear it as soon as it started. I
Yeah,
knew the tones. I was like, "Oh, are they really doing that?" And
yeah.
that was beautiful to hear it
I
played
put
in
on
that
my
classical way.
Yeah, I love it, and the way she's doing it. And I just put on my Spotify instantly after, because and I've seen them perform it live about 2012 when they decided to do the whole Black album. So it was really cool to, see that do. But like you said, it's a nefarious song. It could be played in balls. It could be played on like Wednesday. It could play symphonies. And like you said, you used it, for your act, not only as a passionate fan, but also you're like, this would work. So it's nice to marry those two passions together.
Yeah. And I put a hint of, I'm not a ballroom dancer, but I love that kind of thing. So I put a hint of rumba in it. It does
Ooh.
actually work quite well for the rumba steps and the kind of the fluid arm movements.
Well, not I wouldn't when I meant ballroom, not ballroom, but if you're like at a ball, and then everyone just does the whole did it, but there's also things. But yeah, it's because I watched the video just for my research as well and everything, and I just thought this is really good, especially how the cape was waving and it how in sync it was with the performance. I was like,
Thank you.
welcome. But yeah, it's obviously. So that was really good. So obviously the music is important. Like you said, you could hear it on Planet Rock or hear it on something. What of the other previous songs close to your heart, which you've used for your acts as well?
Um, well, a lot of what I've done in the past has actually been troupe work. So someone else has choreographed that, but I'm working on my own solos at the moment. And one that I'm definitely going to be performing in February is actually the music that you put on the trailer for this, Androgyny by Garbage.
Yeah, I was like finding a song to do, and remember looking through your song list and everything, and I hadn't heard that song from Garbage in a while. I when it comes to Garbage, I like listening to mostly. I'm only happy when it rains, But when I heard that, I was like, this would really be good for the promotional video. But it is a great song, Androgyny, and the lyrics and everything.
Yeah. And I'm going to do a routine that I use my body in a slightly more masculine way at the beginning, and then it becomes more feminine throughout. And obviously, I'm taking off the suit and going down to the stockings kind of idea.
Oh
So
yeah, I've
that's
seen
one
that.
that I'm working on now. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really common one. A lot of people do it, but we can
Yeah,
all put our own little twist on it.
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first time I saw it, the dancer, she's probably performed at the Cabaret Club. You probably know her, Evie Wonder, Evie McCracken,
Oh, yes, yeah.
Scottish, lovely lady, lovely lady. The first time I saw her perform, she kind of she was doing Scarface. So she's all in the suit, like Tony Montana and everything, and then stripping off and looking a bit more, like in a swimsuit with bullets over those and everything. But yeah, so I kind of see where you're going for. But that's one of the good themes to do. You know, it shows that, you know, uh, yes, there's this emasculate world, but then, you know, this effeminate, empowering presence as well. Like you can both be tough and beautiful.
Yes. And of course, we never know what people are feeling inside. So we
Mm.
could be looking at someone that we think is really masculine and they've got the muscles and they've got the beard, but what they are in their heart, we don't know. Could be anything.
I'm a kitten. I don't do this whole, you know, thing. I mean, I'm a man when I thing, but really, deep inside, I'm just a kitten.
Oh.
But yeah, I see where you mean. So it's nice to add a sort of message or sort of, hey, but you know, at the end of the day, also, it's just fun. You know, there's so much variety with burlesque. You know, even when you're going back to the days of the 20s, did that's when it's really started? Or I'm trying to think, did that
It
come?
was actually a little bit before that, from what I remember. It was in the music halls. So, um, end of Victorian era, I think.
Oh,
Yeah. And so it was those, you know, the bawdy sorts of songs that were quite satirical.
oh
Um,
yeah,
they fit under the burlesque
yeah. At the
kind of
Red
genre.
Windmill in Paris as well. Like they must have done
Yes.
stuff like that in the Red Windmill. But I always thought the tways. But I sometimes think burlesque sometimes goes back to, and you know, I don't know much of my history or thing, but it probably goes back to way farther than that. You know, probably like you know, but who knows?
Probably.
But
I mean, there's hints of the sort of the belly dancing and the courtier kind of ideas
hmm.
in it, especially with the hip movements that we do. So,
Ah,
yeah.
belly dancing, another great form of, you know, dancing. I mean, you know, hearing the sounds of the bells and everything. And, you know, belly dance has been used in burlesque as well. Like, you know, like I'm sure you've worked with people with belly dancing backgrounds and they'd like to incorporate that in as well.
Well, my teacher, Fufu LaBelle, who runs Cardiff Cabaret Club,
Shout
she
out to
started,
Fufu.
yeah, she's fab. She started off as a belly dancer. So,
Yes, she did. Yeah.
yeah, so she teaches belly dancing as well as burlesque. And
Mm.
definitely there's a few belly dancing moves in there. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and we obviously know two belly dancers, you know, the Metal Maidens, because Laura and Hannah Yackerman, and sorry, Free, and the two Lauras and Hannah, you know, with their belly dance background as well. But yeah, it's nice, you know, even if you don't have a dancing background and you could create things from the fly as well. But at the end of the day, the result is you're dancing. You've probably always wanted to dance or give it a go, but I've always liked dancing, whether it be cha-cha, tango, you know, um, cha-cha, tango, break dance. I've always liked the craft. I mean, you know,
Mm.
I I've done it myself just for fun, or I've been an idiot on the dance floor, but I always respected the craft of dancing, you know, your feet being the instruments.
Yeah, and the whole movement and just I
Mm.
prefer going a bit freestyle rather than I tried to do salsa, but I can't be led. And the
Yeah,
man is meant to be the lead, and I'm like, no, you can't do that to me.
no,
Um,
I know. My
so I'd
wife and
rather just jump.
same.
I'd rather just jump on the dance floor and just go for it in whatever style I feel like, rather than
Same, and
have to
she did
do it.
help.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree completely. You know, no masters in this house, only one mistress.
Sounds good.
Elizabeth. But yeah, it's just. But with burlesque, it's you know an art form. There's a classic elegance to it as well, but also it's you know, and I don't mean the word in a disparaging way. What I like about it, it's sort of taboo as well. So it's like you know, in I mean back then, you know, people's like, she's getting her clothes off, he's getting his clothes. I mean, you know, but also you're not being, you know, it's there's a striptease to it, but you're not being a stripper or anything, and nothing against that art form either. You know, it's an art form itself, but the taboo side of it, it kind of lets out that desire is like, oh, go on, go for it, you know, sort of effect. I hope I worded that right.
I think the whole of cabaret is that kind of taboo, that not quite the underworld, but that other world. You know, when you
Mm,
look at standard middle class Britain, or you look at politics, or you look at so much of what is seen on social media, it's quite idealized. There's a very specific way that you have to be. But when you're in the cabaret world, you're creating your persona and you are doing something that interests you, that you're passionate about, but
Mm.
that is a little bit underworld and different.
And barrier
And
breaking.
yeah, and so whether it's contortion or it's drag or it's fire eating or burlesque, whatever aspect of cabaret, you're just a little bit outside. And that's the world I prefer, to be honest. I've got a day job. I don't only do burlesque, but my day job happens to be working for a circus. So I I don't live a normal life. I also teach hen
What is
parties.
normal?
I
What
know,
is normal?
exactly.
What is normal? Oh, I'd love to talk about your circus work as well. You know, that's amazing.
Well, I'm not a performer, unfortunately, because I never learnt all those things, but I work in education for a circus. So I
It's
can
great.
still be there and I can help run the workshops. I can book all the tutors. The local council comes to me and says, "Oh, we really want a circus workshop for children in this school, or we want a thing at a festival," and I organise all of that. So I really enjoy being able to make these things happen
And
and
you
to
teach
see the kids. Sorry.
and you teach it as well, you know, as a
I help out with the teaching, so I do a bit
that's
more of
it,
the
sorry.
art side. So I'll teach sewing, or I'll do some of the drawing or the playing with art kind of aspects. But we've got professional teachers then that do the acrobatics, the aerial, the juggling, those sorts of skills. So I'm like the background making everything happen type of person.
So in a way you're kind of a superhero. So by day you're, you know, assisting, helping the circus, doing the drum show, but by night you're Kitty Phoenix doing your own performances, your own styles, and you know, performing to well, everywhere as an audience, but that's kind of cool.
I guess that I hadn't thought of it like that.
Yeah,
That's
you're a
quite cool.
superhero.
Yeah. I need to
Oh,
learn a few of these skills, get some of the people to teach me some hula hooping and some poi spinning and bring it into my burlesque.
oh the maidens do poi and hula hooping, like Laura Wheeler, she's the hula hooping, and Liz and Starlight, they do poi as well. So, you know,
They do the
I,
fire poi, don't they?
yeah, and they've done poi poi as well, and they've done fan poi, but you know, they've got a load of weapons
I bet they do.
in their
They're cool. I
arsenal.
really enjoyed doing the dance class with them. They're really great fun, aren't they?
Yeah, and it was really nice to meet you there and to meet other people and do it as well. Like I said, that was a really good day, and your performance, you were just there, you know, like you know, doing the song, uh, and that was fire.
Oh, thank you. I'd
You're
always try
welcome.
and perform because that's what I do. So I was like, okay, if I can't remember a little bit of the choreography, because I've only had 2 hours to learn it, I will just perform in some way and I'll just get my rock on. So
That's what
yeah,
I that's what I did, but also following, you know, because oh, they were so helpful because I'm at the back, you know, and Heather and Laura turned to me, just go, follow my lead, and I'm like, yeah, that's you know, while also adding your own. But oh, that was a good day.
yeah, it was good. Did your neck hurt slightly the next day though?
Surprisingly, no. The only thing that hurt was my knee, but it's because I've got my little mild tendonitis on it. But I wouldn't change it for the world.
I haven't headbanged for so long, so I did have a bit of a sore neck the next day, but it was
Mm,
great. Don't care.
yeah, I wouldn't change for a world, and I'd do it again and again, you know. So bitch, pay me my money. That was good music as well. Back to costumes. Obviously, I'm sure you have many favorites making or thing, but what has been a time you've been making one of your costumes, whether it was sewing or altering or like, you know, all that and everything, and you just felt, oh, I'm in my most relaxed, calmest place right now, and this feels so good.
Um, See, that's quite difficult to answer because I find that I'm not myself if I don't sew. So there's always some element of that. I have to sew at least 3 times a week. or I start to go a bit loopy. But at the moment, I have got a little project, a hand sewing project that I've been doing for the past couple of months. And I just keep it near the sofa. And every so often I'll pick it up and I'll be watching TV, box set or something, and I'll just do some hand sewing. And that's very relaxing and just chilled out and no worries about it. I'm changing a denim jacket and making it really colourful and unusual. So I can just sit there very happily doing that, you know. But I think there's something meditative about all aspects of sewing. I do a lot of the pattern cutting, a lot of changing a pattern. And so I'm getting out the big sheets of paper and I'm drawing things and I'm really concentrating on where I'm putting the darts and how I'm changing something, taking that sleeve off. And you just forget about the other stuff and you are just so in the project. And then the rhythm of the machine and you're just sewing and you're going and seeing something come together. I just find all of that a really important thing for me to do.
That's wonderful. You know, that's just a brilliant answer. But yeah, I can understand. It's a haven for you. It's like, you know, like you said, you got to sew 3 times a week. That's completely understandable. Even if you're just sewing a sock, you know, it's perfect. Yeah. And like you said, box sets, anything binging. But were you sewing when you were listening to Metallica and going, I'm going to use that?
Oh gosh, I think Metallica was just an automatic one. I didn't need to hear that and go, oh, I should actually know what it was. I was in my sewing room and The Unforgiven came on Absolute Radio. I was listening to at that point, and I started wafting around, probably with a piece of fabric, going, oh, I could do a cape dance to this. And then I went, no, Nothing Else Matters would be better. And it just grew from there. So yeah, just me wafting a piece of fabric was what started that off. But that's the thing, it's triggered all the time. But I have the radio on a lot in the car. So normally it's me driving along going, oh, I need to write this down. I need to remember this song. I love this. Yeah, but it's often the music, I think, that comes to me first.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. And you said you've done troupe work as well. I'm sure they're all great, but has there ever been a troupe piece that really stood out and you went, you know, you've done the performance, you're very proud of it, but also you just look back and go, oh, that was so much fun. Can we do it again?
I think the one that sticks out most is probably the post-apocalyptic one. You used the image of my costume in your
Yeah.
trailer, the one where I've got the very pale but dirtied up kind of tattered skirt and the
Yes.
bra where I'd put the pieces of fabric and they were a bit tattered and a bit chain and stuff on it. I really enjoyed putting that costume together because there was quite a lot of freedom in that one. Also, it was the first one back after the pandemic. So that was the first show, which is why it was kind of post-apocalyptic themed. And so it was really exciting getting back to dancing, getting back to performing, having a show. That costume I just loved. And just, yeah, the whole of that. And it was a chair dance and we were doing it in boots. So I was in my kind of DM type boots. So it was just a little bit different from what we normally do. And yeah, and I loved that routine as well. So everything about that one has a really good feeling to it.
That's great. And like you said, you know, coming out of the, you know, performing again and everything, and just to hear the roar of the audience. So, yeah, that's great. Um, Obviously, like you said, burlesque is such a variety, you know, with its layers and everything. What has been a performance you've enjoyed as a viewer? I'm sure there's lots, but can you remember the first time you saw it as a viewer and it was just, whoa.
Well, that will be the first burlesque show I went to. I'd always wanted to go to a burlesque show, but there is this kind of stigma you feel, and yeah, I never was brave enough. The same with drag. I always wanted to go to a drag show, but it took me until I was quite old to finally go,
You're
right,
not
I'm going
old.
to relatively, you know.
I mean,
Um,
when we're in our fourth and third decade now, we're just kids learning to be ourselves again, rather than under our parents'
so
rule.
much so. Yeah, turning sort of 36, I think, was when I started to find myself. But now I'm like, yeah, I actually am me now. Everything's changed. I've cut off my hair, all those sorts of things, but I'm so much more comfortable now. So I was probably about 40, I think, when I saw my first burlesque show. And the first performer was Anna Kiss. And she did a really Kate Bush sort of routine, almost crossed with Lady Gaga, I'd say. It was black, it was gothic, and I just watched it and went, I want to be her when I grow up. That was just what I thought. And I signed straight up for burlesque classes then. But yeah, that's the one. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and obviously, when performing, you've got to share a whole big, changing room and everything, and it's kind of like, okay, is my stuff here, or has anyone seen my hat or anything? I mean, obviously, when I've watched shows, they probably go well, but it can get a little manic, but it pulls through, doesn't it? You all like, help each other out and everything.
Oh, there's a really good atmosphere backstage in all the shows I've been in so far. I
Hmm.
don't know what it's like, you know, in the metropolises over in England or anything. I haven't done any London shows, but the places I have been, there's been a great camaraderie and everyone has been really helpful. There's been, anyone got any tit tape? Yeah, here you go. Um, just do a quick check. How's the back looking? And you do help each other out. Um, and yeah, there's been a good feeling behind the stage. It is bags everywhere, cases everywhere, makeup everywhere, mirrors everywhere, loads of stuff, hot, just people everywhere.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a good feeling, and you feel part of a family, and you want the show to go well. So yeah, you offer things to people. You're there going, look, you're going to be on stage in a couple of minutes. Are you okay? Let's get you there. And yeah, you're just a team.
that's really cool. That's really cool. Um, like you say, obviously with burlesque, okay, I'm going to go into tassels now. Obviously they work, but without
Mhm.
giving too much away in case it's a performer's secret, but what's possibly the best material and I mean this with respect, what's the best material to use to make sure they do not fall off?
Oh, well, I always use tit tape, but
I know, but what
you
is tit tape? That's what I mean in a nutshell.
it's the same as toupee tape. It's very like double-sided tape. It's not anything really amazing. It's just, yeah, double-sided tape that's designed for use on the body. But
Mm,
other performers, maybe if they sweat a little bit more,
mm,
um, they don't find that as reliable. And some people use carpet tape, some people use spirit gum. But for me, I haven't actually had any problems with just your standard fashion tape, body tape, tip tape, whatever you want to call it. I'm fine with that. But I think, yeah, you try that one. If it doesn't work, you go up a level and see what
mm.
works for you. And everything is a bit personal. Some people might prefer a foam base on their pasties. Some people might prefer like a vinyl base or a fabric base. So you can do what works best for you, really.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And do you make your own?
I do, yeah. I'm not a top level super experienced person, so I wouldn't say my pasties would last for 10 years or something. I'm still on the using the foam as the base, but I love doing the rhinestones. That's a nice job putting all the rhinestones on.
Mm,
And then yeah, I use the toupee tape or tit tape on the back. But it's
mm.
nice to come up with a different color or different design for every routine, different costumes and everything. But we have got someone in our troupe who's very good at making the pasties, and she tends to make more interesting shapes as well. So I might
Mm.
have to commission some from her because you get like flames and poison bottles and a bit more interesting stuff from her. So they're good.
Eyes?
You could do anything as long as you can draw it out quite graphically and it's
Mm.
going to be obvious what it is from a distance. You could do anything. So yeah, eyes I think would work. Yeah.
Mm. Especially if they were like the googly eyes, you know, they wobble while, yeah, yeah.
We had to get a giant pair of googly eyes, like the sort of things they might use on Sesame Street or something. Really giant pair.
Yeah, or mascots and everything.
Yeah, yeah. But no, you
Yeah,
can really go to town on the pasties if you want to.
that's really cool. But yeah, it goes. It's nice that creative. Like I mean, some dancers they just go for the tit tape and everything, but they do put, make like you said, make your own pasties as well. Pasties. I've always called them either tassels or pasties. And I don't remember it's.
Well, they're pasties in general, but they're tassels if you've got the tassel hanging off them. That's
Of
my kind
course,
of,
yeah,
yeah. So they can be pasties with tassels, or they can be just pasties on their own. So,
yeah.
and if you
And
say pasties, it means you can say, well, I get down to pants and pasties, and it rhymes then. So, well, sorry, alliteration.
oh, that's amazing. Pants and pasties. I swear that's going to be a shop somewhere someday.
It probably already is. Yeah.
I might. I'll probably have to find out after this. Yeah. Okay, so you remember the first one. What's the most recent one you went to as a viewer and you were like, bloody brilliant?
Well, there was one after we came out of the worst bit of the pandemic where we were actually allowed to see things again. Well, that's not the most recent one. Oh, but I want to tell you about that one, so I'll tell you about that
Oh,
one
please
anyway.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, that was a burlesque, which was put on by Fufu Labelle. So it specialised in male and non-binary people. And that was really interesting to see more of the male performers,
Hmm.
because so many of the people I perform with are female. Um, so that was really interesting to just see it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Um, but actually, the most recent one I went to was my friend Goldilocks and her partner Sir Desperado. They produced one at St. Cana's Ale House. So a tiny little venue, really cute, like your living room. And they just crammed as many of us in there as possible. And a load of us were from the burlesque world because we knew they were doing it. She's part of Cardiff Cabaret Club. So it was such a friendly atmosphere. And they're right there. They are so close to you. And she sang and played her sax as well as hosting it. That
Wow.
was lovely. Yeah, that was a really sweet night. And it was just, I don't know, really satisfying, really friendly, really satisfying. We enjoyed that. That was good. So that was the most recent one. That was December.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And it's such a small venue, but it shows how much of the improv you can put into, small places. Do you remember, obviously, B Troop or thing? Have you, what's probably the smallest venue you've ever done?
In on the Green in Bristol, I think we had about 60 people in that one, 50,
Hmm.
60, which again was like a living room and just cramming in as many people as possible. It's really good when you're given a tech rehearsal before the audience come in because you can go and see where the front row is. And obviously, with my cape, with the Nothing Else Matters, I'm
Mm.
looking at, am I hitting the chairs in the front row or can I do this movement without, taking anyone's head off or anything? So that was quite nice because, again, they were very close, but they were just far enough back that I could do the cape and I wasn't covering anyone in fabric. So that was all right. But I think you can get the odd one that's about 30, but mostly they're over 50.
Mm. And like you said, tech rehearsal as well. So it's kind of like, your dance is the way it goes this way or that way, and then you see the size of the stage, and it's like might have to downgrade a little or might have to improvise there and everything. Has that ever happened, or has it just been like improvise, go on with it?
Um, well, the first time I did the Nothing Else Matters was on a massive stage compared to most of them. That was at St. Peter's Hall in Cardiff.
Mm.
So that one, when I did the tech rehearsal, I had to really use my legs and go from side to side. The next one after that I did that routine was Clumsy Cabaret, which is tiny. So they were just complete extremes from one to the other. But you do the tech rehearsal, you work out what you need to do. And it's just about do I reach my arm like this with a flow, or do I reach my arm like that with a flow? You can change it in the tech rehearsal and work out what you need to do. And we put extra steps in or we take extra steps out, but it doesn't change the body of the dance too much. It's just, how much am I stretching myself?
Mm.
There's one in Bridgend where the stage is apparently like a coffee table. I haven't done that one yet, but that's one where if you've got any kind of cape or wings,
Mm.
you're kind of dancing a bit like that. So that will be an experience still to come, I think.
Well, I hope that happens, and best of luck for that. And it's nice that you say in burlesque there is no age limit, there is no gender limit, there is no thing. Well, 18 upwards because of fair enough and everything. But it's nice that it's for everyone. There's no tribalism, gatekeeping sort of uh, area for that. And anyone who thinks, oh, burlesque should be for these people, they can politely bugger off, and everything.
Absolutely. We have only got one man in our troupe at the moment. We are happy for other men to join, but it's fantastic to have a man. But there are non-binary people, so
Mm.
yeah,
Trans, and
yeah,
uh,
trans people too, yeah.
yeah.
And we're quite happy for anyone who is over 18 and willing to fit in, to just be part of a troupe, to come along and give it a go and see if it gives them that feeling of empowerment and joy. That's the main thing, I think, that you're going to go and put your all into it. You're going to learn the choreography. You're going to be part of the group, and that you're going to get on stage and try and enjoy it. If you're not going to enjoy it, then it's not worthwhile being there. But if you're going to enjoy yourself, fab, come along and give it a go.
Bravo. Bravo. I agree wholeheartedly. So, without giving too much away, what's next for you?
Um, well, one of my friends is producing a show in Pontypridd in February, which has got an LGBTQ theme running through it because it's part of LGBTQ History Month.
Hmm.
So I'm going to be performing there, probably the androgyny routine. And then I'm actually going to stage Kitten for the first time. She's producing another show along with some of her friends who they're called Beauties in Butte, and they like to raise money for Marie Curie. So they're doing a charity show at the North Star in Cardiff towards the end of February. So I'm going to be a kitten, which means I keep the stage tidy. Yeah, I'm going to be a little kitty kitten. So obviously everyone is taking their clothes off, which means the stage has things all over it at the end of a routine.
Mm.
You need someone to come along and nicely tidy it up and keep it all organized, and then bring out any props that need to be set up for the next routine. So that's going to be my job, to support all the other performers that are going to be there raising money for charity. So I'm really happy to be doing that. I've never tried it before, but I'm really supportive of what they're doing, raising money. So yeah, I'm going to be the kitten at that one.
Yeah, that's an awesome thing to do as well. Well, firstly, thank you for being the first guest on the show and enlightening, this world of what we talked about and everything. I would love to have you back on the show in future. Hopefully, before or after those events as well, and we can talk about them and everything. Hopefully, I can see you at one of your shows as well. And all I can say is the absolute best of luck for what's going to go ahead and what goes on in that creative noggin of yours.
Yeah, it will be very busy. I think February is going to be a hectic month, but it'll be lovely. Yeah, I'm really
Yeah,
looking forward to February.
I really can't wait. And I say it again, much love and luck for that, and go for it.
Oh, thank you very much. I will. I'm going to have a good year. I know I will.
You will, like a fine wine.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and see you soon, and take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you and good night. Till the next episode.